And we're back once again, episode 2 of The Edge. We have a special guest with us. Rob, of course, is here. What's up,
Hello.
Rob? And
Happy to
we've
be
got,
here.
yeah, hell yeah, I'm happy to be here too. We got a special guest. Zoug is here with us today. So those of you
Pleased to be
guys
here.
who make the introduction with Zoug, Zoug is a monster, actually. Zoug is part of our trading community, and he's just been doing really well. And so we wanted to have him on the show just to talk about his experience and what he's been doing. And he's got a different perspective of things because he's from Canada. So I thought it'd be nice to have a fresh set of eyes on the set. So welcome.
Thanks for having me.
For sure. So tell us a little bit about what's going on. You said you're in Montreal, right?
Yep.
Is it beautiful up there or what?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Very nice area here. I like it.
That's what's up. Is it expensive up there?
Housing is getting pretty expensive. Yep.
Yeah. When you say give us an idea. Like, what are we talking? Like for us, okay, I'll just give you an example. Like for us, pre-COVID, everything's doubled in price. I'm assuming you are experiencing similar effects up there.
Similar, maybe not quite double, but they're pretty close. Yep.
Yeah. Rob, is things going crazy in your area too?
Oh yeah. Inflation still on sort of household products has still been like super, super high.
It's transitory.
Yeah, it's transitory. Still seeing it on just regular stuff when you go to the grocery store. So yeah, it really hasn't come down in a meaningful way. And I think that's going to be a bit of the new normal where, things are going to be priced a little bit higher. And also, a lot of companies took advantage of this inflation to make packaging smaller and put a little bit, less chips in the bag and, raise prices. So I don't see them retreating from that anytime in the near future.
Less chips in the bag. I like that because that's honest to God's truth. Like, it is true. Well, I saw this tweet from this girl I follow, and she's a trader or whatever, but she had a good point. I mean, she basically said that, people are used to paying more for things, and until people essentially revolt, and stop contributing to the problem, that the manufacturers or the product, whoever's making this, they have no reason to cut the prices. Like, why would they? We're paying it, right?
Yeah.
So
they're making more margin on less product, and yeah.
And we're happy about it. Like, I mean, in a sense, not happy about it, but we're paying it, right? So
yeah,
you want to sell your product at the highest price possible, for sure.
Yeah, I know, and they're giving us less, like Rob said, less chips in the bag. It's crazy, actually. So
yeah.
So we talked about this before we came on, and you were unaware of it, but something I wanted to kind of point out for maybe people who don't know, and it's funny that you didn't know because you were up there, but it's kind of made some headlines here in the United States because for us, a 30-year mortgage is about the most that you can get, and you said that the prices of everything and housing wise up there is going crazy, and we were just looking before we came on the podcast, like you can get a 60, 70, 80, and 90-year mortgage in Canada. And I mean, the thought of a 90-year mortgage, I mean, your kid takes on your kid's kid.
Your kid's kid, yeah, exactly.
It's insane. What are interest rates like up there? Because I think ours are like hovering around 7%.
Yeah, they are hovering between 6 and 7, pretty much.
So what's the deal? Like, why would they be offering these crazy, like, long-term? I mean, are housing prices just that much higher up there that it's just kind of gone bananas, or is your Canadian
mostly in very big areas? Like the most expensive housing is in Vancouver, so really on the West Coast. That's just totally nuts. And then the second one is in Toronto.
Okay.
And the third one will be Montreal. So, but like in Vancouver, you cannot get anything below 1 million. There's nothing to buy. And
really?
And that's just a dumpster. So.
It's a dumpster with some numbers on it, so where to deliver the mail.
Right.
It's got to
you have your street address, and that's it.
Well, I know that. So, like, Trudeau is a big topic even here. Like, I mean, I'm not asking you to bash your president or prime minister or whatever they call it, but fill us in what's up, because all I see is secondhand, and I have a hard time believing that everything I see in the media is true. So, what's up with this guy?
It's so tough to say, and I'm really not into politics. I'm looking at charts all the time, but I don't watch. I can't.
Well, I just didn't know if it's from what I understand, he's like kind of in China's pocket, and there's like this little socialist thing going on up there. And when I was talking, you and I have been trading together for about 5 years now, and I was in a room that was all Canadian guys for a while, and I was told like, you guys had like an immigration problem way before we did. You've got a ton of, and I don't want to call them. I mean, it's just it's not, when I say Asian, I don't mean like China's and stuff. I mean like Indians, and that whole area has kind of migrated over because they were giving people citizenships up there like pretty easy. They could come have kids, and they were basically giving them everything. So is this kind of had some? I'm sure it's had some serious impact. So interesting. All right, fair enough. So I guess let's talk about this ES, shall we?
For sure.
So Zoug, you've had some crazy good trades lately. So
I did.
For those of you guys who don't know, like Zoug has a regular job, so he doesn't get a chance to day trade like the rest of us. But he is I would call it a swing trader, a position trader. He gets in the morning before work, and then he kind of chimes in later in the day. And he's like, "I'm up 100 points."
Yeah, exactly. He's like an intraday swing trader that we all love to hate, because he gets in early, holds it all day, doesn't sweat looking at the charts, and then put some really good numbers on the board at the close.
What's amazing to me, and we're all into the ES, but I got to give you a shout out on this one. Elon is feeding your face over there. You make a ton of money off of Tesla too. I've been watching. That's like your baby. So you're on Tesla like we're on the S&P.
It's great.
Yeah, because it's juking. That thing's moving constantly.
Yep.
So I sent. We have another guy in the room who was just giving you huge props basically on your trades, and how the way that you're trading multiple products, and you're really just kind of getting in these things at the major inflection points. And he's the trader we love to hate for sure.
The long from 51.82 that was on the 11th, so Thursday.
I will say this. I know that, this week has been crazy volatile, right? Like we've had news like out the wazoo, and we're starting to come down from the all-time highs a little bit. And, as you're an options guy, and me and Rob have been talking about the 0 DTE options, and it is insane what these things are doing. I mean, literally like 4 days in a row or 5 days in a row, they just absolutely exploded. They went from, some of them were $15, one of them was $75, and they went to like thousands, like $1,200, $1,500. And you only need a couple of those. You can be wrong a lot. As long as you get one of those, like you make up for a lot.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
I recall what you were saying on the previous episode, like about generational wealth. Like that's it. You don't need that many of those 10 bangers or that.
For sure. I'm going to throw this up here. So, this was on 4/9. So we're talking about, what was this? 4/9 was last Tuesday. So it was like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. This is when like the onslaught began of just the 0 DTEs going crazy. I mean, this was the one that I was telling you guys that went from $25, and this was the first picture that I took. I think this thing went absolutely bananas. It just went crazy. I couldn't believe my eyes, actually, what I was seeing here. Here we go. Here we go. Look at this. Look at this thing. Oh my God. So, this is the kind of market volatility we've been working with lately, which has been awesome. But, a lot of people have been getting wrecked, but if you're on the right side, I mean, God, life is great. So
life has been good if you're on the right side of these things. Yeah.
Indeed it has. This is the one you took, right? 85.
Yeah, it was 82, but yep.
Okay. All right. And you took it all the way up.
Yes.
right,
so when
cool.
you're looking at these things, you're looking at levels on your normal charts,
Yes.
whatever time frame, 10, 15 minutes. And then do you also chart out the options levels and
Yes.
say, okay, when it gets to this, and, you know, this is a inflection point for price. This is kind of where I want to get.
Exactly. I try to chart the 4-hour levels on either QQQ or SPY, and then I
Mhm.
kind of know where are my big spots, and I try to be a bit ahead of those to make sure I have, well, not make sure, but to increase my chances of getting filled.
Right.
And I kind of park there and try to see if I can get filled, and just try to. And when I do, I put my exit times killing out of them like the next big points, like at 2x or 3x, or, and if they hit, they hit. But sometimes.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to listen, Team Vici all the way, because I have to brag on you right here. Look, I mean, he just said before I pulled this up, he got in at 82. That was the bottom tick of this pullback, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, he got in at the low.
82.50 I got. Yeah.
What did you get?
82.50.
Okay. So,
okay,
I got you.
Like
so,
I was,
you were in before work.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, you got in. I think this was news. I think this was CPI or whatever.
CPI.
Yeah.
Took it up.
We came up, and I got in.
And then at 82.50, I had it. I was already in, but I had it. And then I took half off at 89, which was pretty much my break even. And I rode the 82.50 right to the top.
All the way up. So, you know, for those.
And then I got stopped out like at, I don't know, 38 or something when it started coming back down.
Oh, okay.
I got you. Oh, 38. Okay. Dude,
yeah. I think you did fine.
Yep.
Yeah.
I tried longing 44.40, and then when it started making new lows, I don't know. I'm up. It was the end of the day. I had to close.
Here we go. Let's just look and see. So you got 60 some points.
Yes.
Right? And so because I remember you got over 100 points that day because you had a couple cars on. So this was a super impressive hold. And I'm just going to be frank. I was long too. And then I started same spot, 82, but then my goof ass started shorting right in here. And yeah. So listen, you can't win them all, right? But I mean, you held through that, and I give you mad props on that. So that was great. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So
is that a skill you've had for a long time, being able to hold for these like 30+ point moves? You know,
I'm always good at that. Well, I have the inverse problem, which I can't sell. So that's a tough one for me to just sell my position. I kind of always hope for more. So I guess that's a thing of a trader. But sometimes it's good for me, and sometimes it's not.
Well, look, I'll say one thing that Rob has taught me since we've, you know, I don't know if the word taught is right, but the one thing that he said to me that's kind of resonated with me for a long time, and this is a great, on this move here, it makes perfect sense. He always would say to me, he goes, okay, so say you get out, where are you going to get back in? Right? Where would you get back in? And I'm looking, and I told him, well, everything's tested. I don't have an entry. He goes, then why are you getting out? And so, you know, like that has always resonated with me as far as like trying to hold my runners a little longer and keeping things on, because, you know, I listen, I'm not perfect. I mean, I make money, but at the end of the day, you know, I mean, I'm P&L sensitive as far as, you know, that this is how I make my income. So a lot of times I may cut my runners a little short, and I'm like, you know, I'll have a resistance area here, and I'm, you know, it starts to get a little iffy. I'm like, oh, I'll take it. It's 20 points, you know, I'll take it. And then it goes 20 more. Right. And I'm like, all it was a blip, you know? So Rob has actually kind of like, man, that's been a huge influence on me, Rob, whether you like to recognize it or not. That comment has really resonated with me big time. So thank you for that.
I find it really hard, like on these intraday moves, to hold things that long. So it's something I'm still trying to work on. You know, it's like a never ending journey. But yeah, like it's really, especially that move where it juked high, came back down, tested the level, and then win again. Like that was a tough one to hold through that whole move up.
So you guys know, like, you know, you guys are both, you know, part of the Substack, and we talked about this. You know, we put this out on Twitter, and we talked about this before, and Zoug, you really capitalized on this because you know that I use SPX as the boss, right? Like for me, it's all about, because it's the real indices, right? So the ES is simply a derivative of the SPX. And so, I put this out here. We knew we were holding this leg, and we had a highest untested up here around 14. And the idea is that we were going to go there and then we were going to dump, which is exactly what happened. But again, the way my plan kind of worked, I was like, well, maybe I can get a little scalp in this area here. Well, needless to say, I should have helped you that, and you did. But the way that it worked out was perfect. And the reason I'm showing this is because we kind of saw this in advance, and you played it perfect, because this is the trade here. You took it right up to the spot, which is from a daily from 84 to the daily at 58. And she just puked on us. And so, big kudos for sure.
I sold half of my QQQ calls right up there, but I'm kind of biting my fingers for not taking it all. But
you just never know, right?
Yeah, you don't know.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's kind of the idea of runners. I mean, I have a lot of runners that come back on me, and I get, it'll go 15 points and it comes back and stops me out for 5 or 7, right? Because I just don't know. Like I want to give it a chance. It's just one of those things where I want to try to let it go. So, so you are a big TradingView guy. You actually use TradingView religiously. I mean, I do too, but for actually trading the ES, I use Sierra charts. And so one of the things that we always look at is, because we go by the daily time frame, is kind of our guide. I use the RTH daily, because it's all about the cash session for me, because we trade during the cash session. That's when the big boys are out. That's what's important. And so, one of the big downfalls that I had with TradingView was the fact that we couldn't pull these regular trading hours or these RTH trading hour levels on TradingView. So for those of you guys who use TradingView, the daily, weekly, and monthly, the standard up here, as you can see, actually defaults to the CME settlement. So you get the settlement bar. So whatever the CME is posting was the open and the close, this is what you get. Okay, but that also includes the actual Globex time frame as well. So because we really are pretty invested in what the cash trading hours is doing, it always kind of posed a problem. And I won't say that the levels didn't play, because they did, but I would oftentimes have a daily level that you didn't have. And so you're leaning on me and saying, okay, where's that level at? You put, and you'd kind of have to quasi market on your chart and just rely on me to make the right call for you as far as the level is concerned. And, one of the things that we talked about this real briefly before we got on, but I wanted to show you, and I wanted to show everybody who uses TradingView, one of the big things that I found out is that we can actually finally get the regular trading hour candles on TradingView, which is huge. So, what we're mainly concerned in is the daily time frame. So I just wanted to show you and show everybody exactly how this works. And, so what you have to do is you come up here and you pull down your time frame. You got to go to custom interval, and then you can put in you got to put in 24 hours. So as you can see right here, I have 24 hours already selected as my favorite. So we select 24 hours, and then we go down here to the ETH and go to regular trading hours. Okay. Now this gives us the daily candles, the same exact RTH candles that I'm using. So just to show you guys where we got that level that Zoug was long from, this was our daily leg up right here. Okay. So, this is the 84, he was long from 82 or whatever, but this was the trade. And then this is the daily that essentially where everybody got out, right? So I just wanted to show you, because this is a huge find in my opinion, because I love TradingView. It's so easy to use. I love the versatility of it. I love the way it scales. That's one of my biggest complaints about Sierra is I kind of love to hate it, but it doesn't scale well, right? Like it's kind of moves in chunks. This is phenomenal. So with that being said, I thought this was kind of clutch to bring up and show, everybody exactly how this works and how they can utilize this, moving forward, and including you as well. So
thanks for pointing out.
Absolutely. So kind of a big find in my opinion. And I can't remember who showed me this. I didn't find it on my own, but whoever it was, I know you're listening, so thank you. Really appreciate that. I think it was Piper or something.
Yeah.
I can't remember. Yeah, it's more than likely Piper, if I had to guess. So
he's been leaning on it pretty much.
He loves trading view because he's like Zoug. He's working.
Yeah, he's working and can trade from home.
Yeah. So I mean, dude, you can't have Sierra on your work computer. That doesn't even make sense, right? So
and if I'm on the road, I have like the app on my phone, and I just follow.
Yeah, this is a wonderful program. So for me, this is a game changer having this on here. I'll be frank. Yeah. So I wanted to talk about this dump that we experienced Friday, right? So, we popped up here on Thursday and we played this daily, and they kind of hovered in the Globex session. And when we woke up, we were down 35 points, and we had this Iran news, right? Like Iran's, they want to, if we support Israel, yada yada yada, right? And so we just kind of fell out of the sky. And we actually, even though we played 58, we opened way lower at 05, and then we popped up into the 1875 daily, and we just got our heads split. And they came down all day. But what I really wanted you to point out, because I closed my Sierra, was the insane amount of buying that was happening on this down move. So the buying was absolutely insane. I remember that I was looking at the footprint, because you had customized it to show, the
Cuban delta on it.
And I think we ended the day like plus 40,000.
Let me get a good chart that demonstrates that.
Yeah, for sure.
I found where I got my 82. Well, it's the same spot you were, but I just pinpoint. I'll share.
Yeah, go ahead.
So it was this doji here, like an 8 hour and 4 hour.
So you pull. You're a doji slut, bro.
Oh
like,
yeah,
you are a big doji slut.
They always get retested.
Well, it's awesome. where the turn takes place, right? Like that's the indecision where buyers and sellers go at it. So it makes perfect sense for you.
And they are not the same on regular candles than they are on Akinashi candles. And I kind of like an Akinashi candles. It kind of show you where it's turning. It's kind of late, but when it starts printing some dojis, time to get out or thinking about going the other way.
Interesting. I do not use the Hakanashi. I know a lot of people do for the smoothing, and maybe that's why you can hold so well.
Yeah. When it's printing some big candles and they don't have any wicks on the Ikinashi, well, usually it's not time to get out yet. So when you have a flat candle like the big green ones there, you just stay on, and then
what time frame?
Bringing some wicks and start turning to dojis at the. Okay, maybe it's time to get out now.
So you're looking at an 8 hour chart right now. Are you actually trading this 8 hour, or are you going down to like a 1 hour to trade?
Usually I have a split screen that shows a 15 minutes on one side and a 4 hour on the other one, and I kind of toggle back and forth with some other charts too, but these are my go-to. Yeah.
You hear that, Rob? A 15-minute and a 4 hour. We just talked about that yesterday, remember? Yeah. So
sometimes I go to the 5, but when it was very choppy, I don't remember which day it was. Like I wasn't even down to the 1 minute, but
right.
That was a very choppy day. Which day was that? I don't remember. Anyways.
So for me, I feel like even though I've been doing this a long time, I still feel like every day is self-improvement day, right? I feel like we're constantly growing, we're constantly learning. And I find myself, especially during high volatility time periods, that I want to go down to the smaller time frame all the time. And it's because I don't want to miss the move. I want to be able to see what's going on. And a lot of times it's to my own detriment, right? So I'll get in the smaller time frame and I'm like, man, if I would have stuck with the 1 hour or the 15 minute, like I wouldn't have gotten shook out of that, or et cetera, et cetera. So I've noticed, like, even though I have a process and it works well, I kind of have to, I get all excited. I'm like, oh shit, we got volatility. Like, let me go down to a small time frame and try to scalp or whatever. But really, the process is there for a reason. I mean, we have a pretty good idea of if if X does, if this does X, then we come here, and if it does Y, we go there. So,
Yep.
It's just interesting to me because me and Rob just had a conversation. The reason I'm bringing this up was because on Friday we had an amazing short, and then when we got towards the lows, we wicked new lows on the leg, and then I went down to a small time frame and tried to start buying it because when they make new lows on a leg, usually the pressure's off and the buyers, the sellers will get out because they've completed their job, right? And so we usually get a little relief, and they bring the price back up. Well, they didn't on Friday, so I ended up getting a little chopped up there on that. So I was kind of venting to Rob. I'm like, man, I gotta stop doing that. Like, that was terrible. So I didn't get hurt bad or anything, but it was just it should have never happened. Period. So I was just kind of. Just when you said 4 hour, 15 minute, I was like, ding, there you go.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
These are my go-to. Apple had a nice setup too. I'm just going.
Yeah, let's show it. So I saw Apple. It fucking popped hard. It had like 2 huge days, and that whole area down there was tested. But if they hold those lows, that thing's gonna.
It wasn't tested weekly, but it appears to be solid.
Can you zoom in so we can just see the W? Because that W was like, I looked at this. I'm like, this thing could really go.
Yeah.
So you see, I bought here, some options.
Nice.
I bought more here, and then I'm just riding.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah, for sure.
And I had my it was testing that weekly, and then my indicator was telling me that was bottom on 4, which it's often pretty reliable. Not that it cannot be run, and true,
right.
But like here it held a bit in advance, and then it fell. But sometimes it's often lines up with the way we figure out the levels. So I was like, this W, like this is going to 180 at least.
Well, Zoug, I got to tell you, when we first met, which was a long time ago, obviously trading is a constant involvement, and it takes a while to get good. I mean, when I met you, you were still trying to figure it out, and now you just, man, you're so impressive. I have to be honest with you. Like,
thanks.
It's impressive. Yeah, you've come so far. And the great part about it is, since we've been trading together, we've seen a lot of people come and go. Even a lot of people from the room that you were in are gone. They're still in our room, quote unquote, but we don't hear from them. They're not around.
You never hear from them. And,
yeah, but you have stuck with it, and it's just super impressive. I just want to give you props.
What was the other banger trade? That was Snow. I didn't get in. It was TTWO. I still had a runner on that, but that wasn't
okay. I'm still in Snow. You didn't get any yet?
No.
Okay.
I was short on cash. I put too much on the 0 DT on QQQ, and then that all went to 0. But that's part of my losses. That's all right.
Yeah, but we've talked about. I mean, you are really good at keeping your risk in check, and I've noticed that you. I mean, like we all do. We all take losses, but you let your winners really kind of outshine. So,
like TTW. WO here.
You
had a big weekly there that held at the same time in the indicator. So I took some 150 calls. Like I had 3, and then I took like at 153 when we were going to that. That's probably a yearly VWAP. Yeah. I like to use yearly VWAPs for Confluence, and I know you are a big fan of VWAP too. But
for sure.
Yeah, I took two there, so I had them like in the room.
When you get done, I want to talk about because you and I have been looking at this for a while. I want to talk about Intel. I think Intel is in a good spot. I have no exposure to the semis right now, and so for me, I'm looking for a buy. I do think that. Even though I think the ES can come down just a little bit more, I don't think we're going to fall out of the sky. And I think this is a great potential buying opportunity. And so, when you get done sharing that, I just don't want to forget. I mean, this is I think it's going to be a good trade. And I think, if you pull up Snow, I think you were trying to bid on some calls over there too, right?
Yeah, you see, I'm underwater now on my the only one I have remaining. My average was 2, so about that green line there in the EBKR, and then I took 2 off like at 560 here.
Oh, you've got the VWAP
4 hour level. Yeah.
Okay. So listen, I gotta, I always looked at just regular the VWAP line. That's another Rob thing that he's brought to me, which is the cloud, which has been super helpful for defining trend. And then, and then when you get sucked back into the cloud, that's been really super helpful, Rob. And I have to, thank you again for your assistance on that. Because I'm a value trader and I like to play balance. And a lot of times I will say, oh, this move's well overdone, and get on the wrong side of it, and that has helped substantially. So before we actually, let me show.
I like putting. I started doing that this week actually, like on the current contract. Putting an anchored VWAP to the beginning of the contract. When you're starting to get some time in that contract, it's very good for the big moves.
Yeah, let's check this out.
Like I believe I shared the silver. I've just been following that VWAP contract so nicely.
So let's. I'm gonna just pull this up real quick. Let me find this example, and then we'll show Intel, and then Rob had a few things that he was going to share with us. But so check this out. So this is real quick what we were talking about. So I posted this in the room, and I was thinking I'm going to do a video on YouTube about how we use the VWAPs for day trading, but it can really be used in any context. I just looked at it on whatever chart you had, and I know that was a daily, and it was writing the outside of the first deviation of VWAP. And then you'll notice that once you get back into the VWAP cloud, it kind of gets sucked back in, right? So they played this first standard, and then the target is always the actual VWAP line. And, the way that I've always thought about it, and, I've always thought about VWAP like this, but Rob really brought it to my attention, was if you think about a bell curve, we trade profile all the time, right? So, for us, this would be the POC, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's the same exact thing. This would be the value area high and the value area low. So, what they're doing is once they get sucked back into the value area low or the first standard deviation VWAP, the first target they're headed to is VWAP, right? So, because that is technically the volume weighted average price. So this has been a really interesting trade. And it's worked really well. And again, Rob, I just wanted to, hats off to you for kind of opening my eyes to this, because I've been using just VWAP for years, but I always got rid of the deviation lines just because I'm like, I don't want all that shit on my chart. But now I understand the purpose of it, and it makes perfect sense because I'm a huge profile trader. And when you put it in when you put it into that context, I mean, it's like, it's a no-brainer, right?
It's the same concept.
Yeah. So I just wanted to share this with everybody. I think this is going to be a super solid trade. I've been waiting on this for a while, actually. This is Intel, and we'll just kind of back out. We are coming into huge monthly support. We have all this structure over here to the left where they kind of W'd out and they made the move. And as you can see, this peak right here, this is like our major spot. And then you could see this wick here. This has over and over again, we played here, we played here, we played here, we played here, right? So over and over again, this has been a continually important level that we probably didn't even realize it was an important level. But what's funny is what happened was it manifested itself into an actual leg end over here at the exact price point. And so this is a monthly leg up here, and it also is a weekly leg up. And you could just see, this area that we're dealing with here. This is kind of like the swing low and the new low. Well, guess what we're coming into, guys? We got our weakness right here. Okay?
The W.
Yeah. So I am really targeting $42 to $44 before I take even $1 off. I think what will happen is we'll come up here and we'll do this number, something like that. It won't be that smooth, obviously, but that's kind of what I'm thinking, because we have another monthly up here. So we're talking about monthly to a monthly, right? So, this has got to be my first target. And then obviously we'll hold runners. Maybe we even add in on the retest if we get a chance. But I think that this is going to be a pretty good trade. And I do not think the ES is done coming down. Done going up. I think this is just, we're taking a breather. We needed a breather.
I did want to highlight that I think we get earnings in 2 weeks from Intel too, and that will be a big.
We were actually, I put it in the room, and because really for Zoug, because he's our stock trader in the room. So I have a trade in particular that when I was working for a fund, one of the things that we used to do is we would look for names that were between like a month and 3 weeks out. And so what we would do is we would buy calls or puts based on the direction that we think that it's currently going, right? And so what happens is as you get closer to earnings, the volatility increases because the market makers are, they're jacking up the prices as you get closer to earnings, because a lot of guys want to play earnings, right? So what they don't realize is that when you get closer to earnings, the implied volatility goes up, which causes the prices of the options to automatically increase. And so I'm thinking, even though I'm a little late, I think I'm going to jump in some calls here. Maybe just one or two. I probably won't put a bunch because I have quite a few shares down here. So, but it's just something where if I buy them now, I know that over the next 4 days, the volatility is going to increase, and my options are, even if we don't move from here, even if
your option value is going to go up with the implied volatility.
For sure. Even if we stay right here, I'm going to make money, right? So, more than likely I will hold them anyway, because I'm pretty confident that we're going to pop. We have a huge gap up here by this monthly. Look at that. I mean, this looks sexy as hell, in my opinion. I mean, this doesn't, the one thing I will say is, which is certainly possible, is this gap is screaming at me, but I'm not overly concerned about it. As long as we don't come down here, and I know that for a lot of people, they're saying, well, that's a big stop. Well, it's $3. Okay. Like, if you got 100 shares on, what are we talking? $300? Like, come on. Right. So, this is, for me, once it starts to show itself, then I'll put in more. But, this is a great setup. So I just wanted to kind of call it out and call the option side out too, because I think this is a moneymaker for, even on the option side, so just food for thought.
For sure.
Yeah.
That QQQ trade, I just found something back that,
There we go.
So, QQQ, when it got down.
Is this where we're at right now?
I'm sorry?
Is this where we're currently at right this second?
Yeah.
Yep.
Dude, this thing looks like it's about to launch.
Yes. Well, I wanted it to launch on Friday afternoon, but it didn't want to. So
it didn't agree with you?
I had some 440 calls, so they went to die in the cemetery. But
well, look at that huge low volume though. That they're we just talked about the bell curve, right? Like they need to fill that whole spot in.
Yeah, it went from that weekly to that other weekly, and then it came back, and it was just beautiful. So I took some calls here, and I sold half here, and then the rest. Well, the other one I only had two, so the other one expired. And instead of taking, I have to learn, when you are at the last day of expiration, you need to play a call that's in the money or an option. If you get eaten alive by Theta. So I kept piling on my 440 calls, but that was a bad idea. So that turned into a waste. But that was a nice 3x win, from $2 to $6 here.
Very nice. That's nice. I mean, you're always posting these multi 100% gains.
It's crazy.
I'm low key jelly. I'm not gonna lie. I'm certainly
low key jealous. Yeah, I'm jealous.
Let's see what you got, Rob.
Yeah.
All right. So this is in reference to what happened Friday. Can you see this chart?
Yep.
Yes, sir. Oh, wait, this is the Delta thing, right?
Yeah. So this is what was really interesting about Friday's trade is we had that news that came out sort of pre-market.
And for people who are listening, please detail the chart in your words, okay?
Yeah. So this is a 10-minute chart, and the two major things I'm showing on here are just the price action and then cumulative delta. So if you're not familiar with cumulative delta, all it is if people place a market order, then it goes up by 1. And so you can tell when people are aggressively buying or selling by the amount of market orders that are taking place at any one point in time.
Limit orders don't count, correct? Limit orders don't count.
Limit orders don't count because for every, for every trade, there's one market order and one limit order. So it's just the market orders. And typically, price action and the cumulative delta are fairly correlated. Not 100%, but usually they're at least fairly close. And what was so interesting about Friday is we had some news come out, and then we had some news about Iran imminently going to do something with Israel. And so the market started to sell off. And so we had this really nice selling off after news came out. You see, we almost kept pulling back into VWAP and this little bit of this first standard kind of going up into here. But as the day progressed, the buying just kept going up and up and up. And so by the end of the day, we were down still like 100 points, but, over 30,000 contracts to the positive have been traded. So the buying on Friday was just nonstop from the gun and never ceased. And when you have these sort of like discolorations, when you have something that's been just screaming down and then Q and delta going up, it's sort of like a sign that, this could be a reversal, or there's some things going on in the market that people are taking things off, sort of deleveraging because of the risk going into the weekend. And so I thought that was a pretty interesting chart to see that. And this also highlights what you talked about earlier, where this sort of cloud around the ETH VWAP, it kind of held below that one standard fairly nicely.
Looks like it kept playing the 2 standard too. Like two standard. Yeah. What time frame chart is that?
This is a 10-minute chart.
Looks pretty good, actually.
Yeah. So I thought it was a really pretty good way to see what was going on Friday and why it was kind of interesting. And I kept looking for longs because of all the buying that was taking place, which
well, so one of the things that you and we have on our charts is we kind of monitor the 5 to 10. Well, we do monitor. We monitor the 5 to 10 day moving average, and we're always looking at saying, okay, well, if the moving average is 40 points, which is what's been generally the 5 to 10 day average, we look to say, okay, we've only moved 20 points today. We should move another 20 points. Well, the past week, it's been an 80 point average, which is
the range has been singing.
Yeah.
And the range on Friday was basically 100 points, 98 3/4 points.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
Unbelievable kind of volatility this past week entirely.
So with this kind of buying, and I'm just going to talk from just a general, like high level perspective, you made a comment just now about people unwinding, et cetera. When you see this kind of buying on a down move, I mean, would you think that this might be like an institutional player who's kind of loading up for the long-term play, or how do you view, like, this is an extraordinary divergence here, in my opinion.
It's a huge diversion. It has to be the institutional players or market makers in the option world that are having to put on orders to offload their, offset their delta from everyone buying puts or whatever. And
That's
so I think there is a fair bit of that going on, but 40,000 contracts to the upside on when you're down 100 points is very, very unusual.
Yeah, I had not seen that before. That was pretty wild. Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
One of the things I think we talked about was, it's been a huge tell for us, and we have talked about it in the room a few times, was the VIX. And, we tweeted about it and we talked about it in the room. And I'm just going to share this with the room with you guys real fast. But the VIX has been, a topic of conversation for us because every time we came down and we essentially been holding this massive monthly, weekly support area down here at like $12.75. And every time they come down here, we get a pop, literally every single time, right? Like they're just holding this so amazingly. And when they came down here last time, we noticed, okay, they're going to pop. But what was really kind of the key for us was we had this huge pop in the VIX, and is like, we saw all this untested support down here. And it's like, okay, I don't think this downside move is over yet. Like this was giving us huge cues off of this monthly or this weekly and daily level. And you guys know, based on the way that we trade, I mean, we judge the size of the move off of the size of the time frame. And so, when we were playing this high time frame support, for VIX, which obviously has the opposite correlation of the ES, we kind of anticipated this was coming, and this was one of our leading indicators, I guess, that things were happening. And what was really interesting to me, and I just love the way our system works, to be honest with you, it never ceases to surprise me just every day I'm like, this is so cool. But we played this, we came right up and we hit this monthly, right? So
monthly doji.
Yeah, you're right. A monthly doji. Yeah. So monthly is greater than the weekly. So it put a stop to that run. And then now we're starting to pull back a little bit. I think we'll probably, I'm sure it'll flirt around with this area in here somewhere, because this is some major monthly right here, and there's some stuff in here which I haven't charted yet, but it's pretty obvious that that was kind of the major move right there, because we came right into this high lost area from here. But I guess I just wanted to point out how we were this was one of the big cues for us that we pointed out. I was like, hey, if this thing launches from here, guys, look, longs aren't going to work out, right? So, and Rob, you also made a comment just now about all that insane buying. And I was actually, like I said, I was one of the fools down there buying at the lows, and we had smacked from this VIX, and we had all that buying, and I'm thinking, okay, where's our relief, right? Like I wasn't looking for a lot, 15 points or something. Like we're just trying to scalp 15 points, but it never moved, right? Like we just stayed down around 50-ish, So I just, just throwing it out there, I guess. It's just interesting the way it worked. So.
Yeah, I remember we were trying to long when VIX was at 19 something, and we were trying to long ES, and it was like no way it goes through on first touch. Like it gets back.
Right, it's crazy. So the real question is for me, I was looking at this VIX. I mean, now we have to figure out what's the next play for that, right? Because I think we're starting to get to the point where we could start. I think they could start relieving a little pressure and get a little pop in the ES. I think it could potentially be coming. And I guess that's one thing that we really didn't discuss yet before we get off of here. Do you guys want to talk about the ES and kind of, what we think is going to happen here? All right. So, here's kind of what we were thinking about for the ES. And, we have a very unique style of trading, the three of us. And, for us, we're always looking at support lost. And, if you can't get above this, then we're going to come lower because, if you can't get above that, you got to go find new buyers, right? So that's always been the idea of how we play this. And what was really interesting was this was the all-time high that was made in Globex. And right across here, we had a nice daily level at 09. It really just sent us down. And a lot of people would say, well, that's a textbook head and shoulders. It is. Absolutely. It absolutely is. And it was gorgeous. And it sent us right down into this leg end. And then we popped back up, and they essentially played this next daily right here, right, which was just phenomenal as well. And they sent us down. I didn't mark that level, but they sent us down. And this is kind of like the leg up that we held. And again, this is the trade that Zoug took that we talked about earlier. They popped this up and they played the 58. And so we're making this like daily progression down, right? Like we just keep testing all these daily high time frame levels. And so now we've made new lows again. And so we're coming into this like really sexy spot down here. But it's also kind of like crazy because we have this whole rollover nonsense that we've been dealing with. And so we've got this really kind of key location down here that I am personally eyeing, and it's a little bit of a larger zone, but really it's kind of like this 35 to 14 area. I think anywhere in here can play. When me and Rob did the math yesterday, it was like 21, I think, for SPX. I'm sorry, the SPX ES calculation came out to 51.21, and so somewhere in this area, we're going to get a pretty healthy pop, I do believe.
You mean about a measured move, or?
You mean
the difference between futures and what SPX is?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah. So, for those who don't understand how that works, that, SPX never rolls over. SPX is whatever the SPY is, call it, in a sense, right? The SPY doesn't roll over either. So the SPX is the actual index. The futures are a derivative. So every time we roll over, like last month, we had a 68-point difference between SPX and ES. And as the futures start to expire, get closer to expiration, the divergence starts to converge, and you get closer and closer. So like right now, we're only 43 points away. Right. So, as we get closer to expiration, pretty soon there'll be 20 points and then 5 points until there's essentially nothing. And then we'll roll. Right. So when me and Rob did the calculation, this was based off of Friday. We're looking at, SPX has a nice little leg down here at 21. And so we've got this spot really between 14 and 35. And really my focus is, as much as 35 is sticking out to us, like Rob told me yesterday, because it's almost too obvious. He's like, it's like ridiculously obvious. And he's right. Like it looks crazy. So especially on Sierra, but so I'm just thinking that this area right here, guys, and correct me if I'm wrong, Rob, but I really do believe that this area down here, just get rid of this line. This is all tested. I do believe that this area right here could essentially send us back up to our 43 spot. So and then we could make one more move down potentially, or do one of these numbers. So just my thoughts. Rob, go ahead. You got
I also wanted to highlight that when we did make the new all-time high, it was an ETH. So that's why I keep on thinking that should be retested during the RTH session. So that's another beacon of
Absolutely.
Okay, let's go.
Well, we have a rule, right? Tell people what the rule is, please clarify.
The rule. We don't know exactly when it's going to go back up, but it always does. It always takes it out in the RTH session. It will.
That's right. We don't know exactly when. We know it's going to happen. Also,
we know it's going to happen.
If you have Sierra pulled up, Rob, I think would you mind showing your weekly TPO? I mean, there is a monster imbalance up there, and as a value trader, and as I just showed you guys how bell curves work, essentially that we always make the bell curve. When Rob shares his screen, you'll see that we have a nasty imbalance up there. So, not only do we have the high that was untested, that was made in ETH, that they're going to take out, we just don't know when, but we have this sick ass imbalance up there off the weekly TPO, which really could take us all the way up to like 5360s, 5375s, somewhere in there. So I think it's really important to point that out. And I don't know if it's going to happen from this particular spot here, but I do for sure think that this area takes us back. And I'll show you guys why I keep talking about the 40s. And I think that you guys know, but here, let's...
Longer term, like these indices are so bullish that it's hard to be bearish for a long time. They just go up all the time.
Well, they're designed like that, right? I mean, so every time they get something that's weak, they just take it out and replace it with something else that's strong. Yeah. So, I mean, it's designed like that. So here you go. So here is my 4350, which is why I said I honestly think that this area somewhere around here could take us back up to 4350. And this would be the next sequence down in the lower highs. Now, what they do from here, I don't know if they play that and pop, or if we go down and make another new low and play this area down here. There's no way to actually tell, right? But, all we can do is play the legs for what they're worth for now and the support. But that's kind of what I'm seeing because, 84 is untested. I'm kind of imagining this thing. This is kind of what I'm thinking. And then what we do from here, I don't know if it just dumps or if it does one of these numbers, but that's kind of how I see it personally. So does that make sense to you, Zoug?
Yep.
From a leg perspective? Yeah. So what do you got, Rob? You're over there fishing for something.
Oh, no. I'm looking at the daily profile, and that's what I was going to highlight. I was trying to...
Oh, is it all funky too?
Yeah.
The weekly was just screaming at me because it was so bloody obvious. Yeah, when you get done with that, we'll just call it. Let Zoug get back to his wonderful weekend.
Don't let Zoug do anything.
It's my turn. My girl's been gone too, so now it's my turn.
That's your turn.
Rob's the only one that's been getting any ass this weekend. So. On another note, while you're looking for that, I think Bitcoin's setting up for a nasty little short. I am going to try to get myself in a nice Bitcoin position. We won't go over it now because we're running over on time, but anybody who's interested, I just put up a Substack post on it. It's free. Just check it out. I put on some key levels in there, and I think it's going to be a good trade. It could be, for now, I'm looking at basically about a $10,000 move for T1, and then really it could go 20 or 30 grand from there. So depending on your size, you can make some good money on that. I don't know if I know that you and I had talked a little bit briefly, Zoug, about Bitcoin micros.
Yep.
I know you haven't stepped into that arena yet, but the micros are awesome. They're super liquid. They're more liquid than the actual full contract because the margin on the full is outrageous, and only really institutions have the money to trade that shit. And so the micro contracts are pretty liquid, and they're only 50 cents a tick. And so you can really kind of scale into your position nicely. And, 10 micros is a full-size Bitcoin contract. And so, if you only want to trade a quarter Bitcoin, you just put 3 on her, and if you want to trade a half of one, if you're like, okay, like, I have $1,000 stop on this. Well, I only want to risk $250. Okay, then just put 3 micros on, right? Like it's really easy math, and it's really liquid, and I like it. So it's certainly something that the thing I like about Bitcoin, and I'll just be frank with you, I only trade it on the daily and the weekly time frame. So, for me, it's always a swing position. I'm always in it for a huge move. I do not do day trade that shit ever. And I may only take 3 trades a month, but when I take them, they're bangers. And, that's something to think about.
Yeah, so, just like I do with the options, like with the
exactly. It's right up your alley. It's right up your alley, bro.
Yeah,
seriously.
Exactly. That's how I like to trade. Like I think it's going up, and it often takes more time than you think it will. So I think it's going up like Apple. Well, buy some May calls. I don't know. Give it a month to play out.
I got you, Rob.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so what I wanted to highlight in the TPO chart, and what this is a daily TPO chart, but I've combined 5 days of the week for these 3 weeks, so you could kind of see what this high looks like in the ES. And so we don't have any excess really on these highs, and we had a poor high on that previous week, and obviously with news and CPI and stuff, we have fallen down. But this whole top looks really, really suspect, as if it needs some excess. It needs to go back up there. But you can see how like this loop got filled in the next week. So you are getting some fill out of the profile that's been happening. But if you look at this high, you had all this buying that got absorbed, and this is where the selling got initiated that took us down. But this high just doesn't really have any excess on it.
Yeah, it's trash.
And so it's kind of a garbage high. Like I really feel like that needs to be revisited again.
Well, look how big the value area is on the low, right? Of that composite.
Yeah, you come down here, this composite for 3 weeks, you've got this pretty nice excess, or on a day like this where you have excess, or this nice balance day where you have excess. But up here, nothing. It just looks like it needs to be revisited.
And we have the ETH all-time high, and then we have this nasty imbalance. And so for me, it's, again, we don't know when, but we do know that they will not leave that. And
exactly,
like Zoug said, these indices are so crazy bullish right now. It's insane. I mean, well, I think that's about it, guys. Don't you think? That was fun.
Yeah.
I appreciate you coming on, Zoug.
Thanks, Zoug.
It was fun. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, we'll get our little process and everything buttoned up more and more as we do more of these. But I do feel like the value add and getting something out of it, I'm learning something too.
And I enjoy it. Like, for instance, just talking. I always learn something. I learn something from Rob all the time because he's 10 times smarter than me. And then we have, Zoug, you just showed me a couple trades that I'm clearly going to be interested in. So, if I spend an hour talking to you and I can make $1,000, then I think it was well worth it.
Yes, well worth it.
Yeah.
You only charge $800, so it's totally
beautiful. Well, you guys have a good one.
All right, you too.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Take care. Cheers.